Good morning. My name is Lexi Delgado, and for any of you who don't know me, I have saved my own life using practice. So coming together in the morning and inviting a wider community to join me in something that I've been doing for over 30 years, that isn't just a good idea, but has really saved me, is what's behind Wake Up Calls. Like everybody everywhere, I had an extremely imperfect childhood. And I became a mother young, which isn't true of everybody everywhere, but is true of me. And had to figure out how to not cause the same harm. Now, the fact is, I probably haven't caused the same harm. I've caused different harm. But I would say that the volume of the harm, the inevitable harm of motherhood, was turned down dramatically. So my need for self-care, my need for silence, my need to untangle my extremely messy inner landscape was a survival tool for a lot of years. And now that very same quiet, still space is the greatest gift that I can give to myself. And it's also what I have to offer to the world. Because through that silence comes clarity and devotion, some wisdom. I can't claim it as mine. And in this tender world, we are all needed. And we have to start with ourselves. So this small 30 minutes, a couple of times a week is just what I know works. And so right here, we just start with our breath, finding it, attending to our breath. It's always happening. What happens when we link our attention of this thing that is happening? It changes right away. And right there, right here in this breathing, we begin to find both the tangles and the clear pathways. And for me, this idea of waking up isn't about only having clear pathways. It's just about being able to observe the tangles and the pathways with some sense of equanimity. Hello, tangles. And hello, clear pathways. So breath and seeing how breath and belly are linked. And then finding your bones. I just can't stop talking about bones because I think it's the center of the universe. I think your bones are the center of my universe, and my bones are the center of your universe, and everything lives here in our bones. It's a system that looks personal, like all the other systems that we track. But I think the bone system is the universe held within. And we're wrapped around our bones, and our bones give us form. So we take that form and we work with it. That's what a life is. Breath and belly and bones and form. And an unfathomably large library at your disposal. Some of it tangled, a stack of books just tossed on the floor, and some of it incredibly orderly. So just taking a moment right here and right now with your breath to notice what is changing. Are you settling? Are you finding neutrality? Are you battling a room full of flies and just managing not to flail around, swatting in a frenzy? Find and feel your heart. Find and feel the machine of your heart, not the idea of your heart. The thing that's been beating steadily since days after your conception. See if you can feel the link between your heart and your bones. They're constantly talking, and they're only ever talking about you. From your heart and with your breath, stay right here, right here, right here. And trace your way up and out and into space, into the vast and boundless universe right outside of the edge of your body. We can't find where space ends. There's rumors that it's ever expanding. And for a lot of us, for whom living in form has been difficult, escaping to space has been one of our key survival tools. The problem with escaping into space is that you have to abandon form to do so. And then you're not actually fulfilling your destiny, you're surviving. So, breath and belly and bones and community help us build the muscle to tolerate here. And from tolerating, we can move to a deeper experience of And from a deeper experience of, we can find joy. And joy, like love, is more neutral than we realize. You know, that piece of a Rumi poem, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. And it's sort of like out beyond ideas of joy and love, there is a sensation of all is well. I'll meet you right here. And breath and belly and bones. Attending, attention. It's about caring for, not in a squishy gushy, eat this, take this vitamin way, but in a offering of presence to. That offering presence to is tending. And again, tending is part of our job, and we must start with ourselves. So, enjoying the still point you've created for yourself and that we have created together, I continue to marvel at and bow to the ability for human beings to create field across space and time, to cohere. It's what we're built for. One of the things. Cohere. If and when some expression of the nourishment that you're feeding yourself by being here today rises in you in the form of a word or a phrase, and you feel like sharing it in chat box, whether you choose to do that or not, so you know it'll show up in the recording. Part of my goal for this time, and I'm trying to train myself into a new format, and I'm doing a very mediocre job. Darn. um, is trying to teach, the core meditation as a way of weaving ourselves together, but also practices that you can just stick in your pocket and pull out anytime you want to out there in the world. So it's sort of like, creating that web of stillness together and recognizing how together we generate more of that stillness for each other, that one of us coming in bumpy, there's a container for that to soften and be held, which feels so important right now. So the practice I want to offer this morning is a simple one and may or may not be physically comfortable with where you are. And I want to be careful about kind of throwing us into too much neuroscience, which you may know I love to talk about, and just give you the practice and you can play with it. So the practice is simply taking your arms and putting them behind your back. And again, if you're sitting in a certain way, it may not be comfortable. So the other thing that I'm doing, let's see if I can figure this out. Can you see my hands? Is I'm taking one hand and I'm clasping my wrist, and that's it. I don't know if you saw that. Okay. So, and you can, different bodies have different comfort levels with this movement. So find comfort here. This isn't a yoga, rip your arms out of your shoulders. It's not a chest opening exercise. It's a nervous system regulation practice. And it is highly researched, and it has lots to do with the polyvagal theory and the vagus nerve. But I want us doing our own damn research around here. So just letting one hand rest up against your lower back or wherever it logically lands. Feeling two fingers encircling your wrist. And just bringing breath right here. One thing this definitely does is open our hearts. And for some of us, that's going to feel really great because we might have forgotten that we were shielding and guarded, and it might feel great to liberate our hearts. But for other of us, this simple, tiny, small movement may actually create some anxiety or an uncomfortable level of vulnerability in your body system, in your nervous system. So I wouldn't do this in a bank line, especially if it creates discomfort for you. I wouldn't do it in public spaces. But this is a gorgeous, simple, doable practice for tolerating leading with your heart and for feeding your body a sensation of what it feels like to have your heart be in the lead. Can you feel maybe what's shifting in your head as you do this? So maybe it's every time you pee and put your hands behind your back, you make this closed circuit. That's part of this, that fingers encircling your wrist, whether your fingers close or not, you're creating a closed circuit. You're not taking in, you're recirculating, which actually gives your body such a lovely and often needed break. But it's sort of like, it gives it a gift and it gives it a challenge. Gift of closed circuit, challenge of leading with the heart. And just notice what happens the more you attend to your breath here. And whether this is easy or not easy, it may be worth doing, and you will know. And if it's worth doing, how do you do it? Several times a day so that it goes into a bank account. So, is this something to use when you hit a wall of crisis? Maybe. Maybe if the wall of crisis is causing shutdown or attack. But this is contradicting a fairly normal response to threat. And so it may push you out of a zone of coherence. So, again, just using it in your own time, not in a crisis way, is a great beginning. And everything I say, everybody's system is a little bit different. So, you're going to apply this in ways that make sense to you. So, imagine 30 seconds, 3 times a day, leading with your heart, committing to leading with your heart and training your body that it can. It's an incredibly rebellious thing to do in the world that we live in right now, to lead with your heart. And it seems like it's just such a darn good idea. And again, maybe right here you have a word or a question. I'm again in this format change time. Um, and so maybe there's a way that you're trying to refine something that I said or something that I did, and you can type it. And if I can answer it, I will. And if I can't answer it here, I may use it as food for the next time. So I opened with a little tiny piece of story around my practice, around this many, many years of practicing. And I want to add that I what practice means is so wide and so broad. And to me, the right practice is a practice that empowers you to know that you can change your state of being, that gives you some traction, that helps all as well rise, and that helps you feel connected. And so there are millions of things that count in my world of practice. And one of my practices that I go in and out of, I've had a totally silent summer as a writer and a poet, um, and little tiny inklings of maybe as the darkness rises, so will the words again. So I end today by offering a piece of the practice that I had earlier this morning. And this is dedicated to all of the residents of the Rogue Valley, specifically and broadly, to a world on fire. The end of fire season. Still sorting through piles of debris, the occasional treasure or jewel on discovery. Okay, but charred. Tending to the burns, watching scabs form while other areas ooze, too tender to look at, impossible yet to touch. What to grieve and how, overlaid with all the untended burns, the unidentifiable bones, the horror. Everything plus nothing equals what? Bless you. Bless this day. Newsletters coming out today. Thanks for rolling with changes and I'm open to feedback, and I'm trying a couple of different times. And so that I think next week remains the same, but whatever my calendar says, whatever it says in the newsletter is true. So I hope those are times that you can make. And if they aren't, you still can have the recordings. So